They were on the front lines of the protest as leaders. Thank you. As leaders, as organizers. They were behind the scenes. They were in critical communication roles. 35 of those arrested were women, and three were jailed. Some of these women later rose to national and international prominence. In the exhibition that you will see around, we have lots of images, and you can see some of the images of women, because we've managed to pull some of those images from the hidden texts, actually. Yeah. Okay. The other thing too is we have this table here, and it does have a list of everyone who was arrested, and they are broken down by gender and by race, so you can have a look at that as well to see what the actual statistics are. So this is what we're interested in. So this roundtable is going to serve as a discussion that explores this relatively absent narratives of gender and the student movement related to 1969. And what we expect here today is that the speakers who are here are going to share their stories of participating in the protest, and to give us a behind-the-scenes perspective, the kinds of things we've never heard of or we barely hear about. And the discussions will also include responses from two of our academics here at Concordia, and they're with us today. So permit me to introduce everyone here today. So our first presenter, well, our first, let's call a student activist who's here today is Brenda Dash, who's right there. And Brenda Dash actually is featured in this photo video here. She's the lady with the young lady with the huge afro, real funky afro, in 1969. That was 1970, I think. So Brenda was born and raised in Montreal, and she moved to Los Angeles, California in 1971. She studied film writing, and she worked in the music industry in LA and in New York, and in Nevada. She also worked with the music industry as well. And she's worked in marketing until 2019, where she retired, right, Brenda?
I didn't retire.
You haven't retired as yet.
The program I was working on, I shut down, so.
Okay.
Not retired.
Her name is Brenda Dash. And later on, she was actually later on arrested for promoting the FLQ in Montreal and Quebec, right? So she has quite a political history. There is Yvonne Greer. Sorry, can you let us continue, please? Yeah. Right, this is not the moment. Yeah. There is Yvonne Greer, who's with us. Yvonne is here. And Yvonne has spent 30 years as a teacher, a specialist in guidance at Centennial Regional High School on the South Shore. And basically her principal occupation has been Black community development. She's a mother of one, and her commitment to community upkeep came as a direct result of her involvement with the student arrests here at Sir George Williams University 50 years ago. And currently she's a member of the Reverend Dr. Charles Earls Scholarship Committee and a member of the board of directors of the Black Theatre Workshop. So she's quite active in the community. On my left is Michelle Serano, and Michelle Serano was also one of the students who was here in 1969, and she was actually a student who was arrested as well. Michelle Serrano's name is on the list of the arrested. She's number 12 on the list.
The wrong age.
The wrong age. She was actually, it says she was 22, but you were actually...
I turned 20 in jail.
Okay. She was 20 in jail, so she was 19 when she was arrested. So she came to Montreal, born in Algeria, and came here to escape the atrocities of the war, and that she witnessed as a child, as a daughter of a Holocaust survivor. She has served as a teacher and administrator in different educational milieu in both the private and the public sector, and she has gone on to serve a long career, particularly at Dawson College. So those people who are Dawson probably know. Now we do have some of our own people here from Concordia. So we have Océane Jasor, who is a professor in sociology. So she is a critical feminist scholar in the Department of Sociology and Anthropology. She received a PhD at the Department of Global and Sociocultural Studies in Florida University, and her research is on transnational and intersectional approaches to the study of race and gender in an African context. And there is also, is also Stéphane Martelly. Some of you might know her. She is also an academic here at Concordia, and she was born in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and now lives in Montreal. She does have a profoundly transdisciplinary approach to research and teaching when she confronts theory and critical reflection in her work of art. She's a writer, researcher, and professor in the theater department and the main coordinator of the Center of Oral History and Digital Storytelling here at Concordia. So join me in welcoming these women to our panel today. So basically what's going to happen here is that we're going to have a sort of a discussion. There are going to be a couple of questions posed by each of our academics here. And we're going to start with Stéphane, who will pose a couple of questions, 2 questions, maybe 3. And our panelists will discuss those questions. And then Océane Professor Jasor will pose another 2 questions. And then there will be a bit of a conclusion, a sort of summary, and then we'll open the floor up to you for your questions. Okay? So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here, ladies. We're very honored and moved to have you with us. Thank you for having the time and to sit with us and to discuss these events that you went to. My first question is really simple, in fact. I wanted to ask you, what do you remember about the Sir George Wyndham affair, and what can you help us understand really that we still do not know about? From your own perspective and lived experience, what can you help us understand and grasp that we never discussed before in the tales of these events? Anybody?
You or me?
Well, I took some notes because I'm Mediterranean and I get excited and passionate. I'm Mediterranean and I get excited and passionate, and sometimes I forget what I want to say. I want to tell you what it was not. It was not a riot. It was not a computer center party, as the book and how describes these events. It was not a random act of destruction and violence, and in particular in setting the fire. I can give you details, if you so wish, after about what actually happened from the moment the police came in to the time we came out of our own volition by breaking a door with an axe because we were locked from the outside and there was a fire. I can give you details of the police violence that I personally suffered, that I witnessed from the minute we were put in one of those rooms with the windows broken and it was colder than today, to the time that people got taken down through the garage. And I was just telling somebody, today's the first time that I walked down Bishop because I've avoided that street. In fact, I've avoided the whole place, but I realized today that I wasn't going for the patio doors. So I can tell you all those details, the arrest, what happened, the fact that we were denied bail, stayed in jail for close to 14 days, and were expelled from the student. I was in my 4th year on a scholarship, which ruined all the plans that a lot of us had for higher education. But I do want to tell you what it was, and I took the time to write my thoughts because I think it's important. It was a massive student demonstration. First of all, it was just not 97 people, it was over 500 people. The only reason there were 97 arrested is because me and a whole bunch of other people were cleaning up because we thought it was over. And when we found out that it wasn't, that's when the 7th floor was barricaded and so on. I've always considered
equality for everyone and fairness, which is what prompted the sit-in to begin with because of the unfairness that we discovered. So we thought we'd raise our voices and be heard, and the university would make it right and all would be well. So that was our goal. What I did discover, and I think everybody else did, with the goings on, with the sit-in, with the deception, with the lock-in, with the arrest, what happened was we became a very strong unit of people, young people. And we still being young and still being naive, we were prepared to continue to fight the cause. And there were many, many people who were not in the university, maybe hadn't even been a part of the sit-in, but who came and joined us because they believed us. And they should have, because we weren't lying. So I would say that that bond that we ended up with, especially during the time we were in jail, because we were in jail, you know, we thought we'd be in jail overnight and out we'd go, you know, our parents would come and get us. Was not the case. The jail bond was not allowed for a long time. And in many ways it made us stronger. Because also while we were in prison, they separated us from the regular prison population. They were afraid that we would contaminate them with our crazy thoughts of, you know, liberation and equality. So they separated us, which made us cling to each other even more. And that was good. That was very good.
Oh, thank you very much.
Sure.
Well, I was not jailed because I wasn't on the scene the night of the, or morning of the arrest. Actually, I came in town the night. I was in New York for the weekend, came back and was greeted by my mother, who told me that all my friends were in jail. And then she explained to me what had happened at the computer center. Well, that was the beginning of my involvement because I not only had friends in there, I had relatives, or a relative, very close relative. And so that meant I had to get involved. I had to start working to get these people out of prison, to let other people know about what had been going on, what the injustice was, to raise funds for bail, and just out of pure love. I did not at the time really think of myself as a revolutionary. I can't say I do now either. However, I was moved to work. I haven't stopped since because I knew it was unjust. And sometimes I have trouble with the word justice because we use it if it works for us. That's what I noticed. Justice works for me, or the outcome of some event works for me, then it's just. And if it doesn't, it's unjust. So I don't really use the word often. However, my involvement was after the fact, and throughout the time after, all the headlines within the Black community was talking about the aftermath of February 11, 1969 at Sir George Williams University. And the reason for that is so many things emerged from that event.
Thank you very much. I hope you tell us about the things that emerged, certainly.
Well,
Yes, I'm hoping that you will. Would you say that these events were colored for you by the specificity of the gender experience? Meaning, as a woman, do you think that you have a different experience than maybe the male students involved?
Well, I would say, because I was one of the loudmouth women,
Yes.
I don't think I found it any different as far as the protest was concerned. We were quite a few women. It wasn't a small amount of women. I'm not sure the exact count. I think I just read 43. 43 women? 40-something women, so of the arrested. And we were all very active, and I don't think really, I didn't feel like, oh, I'm a woman, so I'm doing something different than the men were doing. But we were, like I said, a strong group, and we were gathering momentum as we were gathering supporters. And then we were traveling around, and we were going to universities and speaking about our experiences. We're being invited by various student unions across the country and even in the U.S. So I wasn't treated any differently. I was often the only woman with the guys, but sometimes there was other women as well. that were very articulate and could speak and did. So I didn't really find that to be the case.
No, I didn't either. I've always considered myself, me. For me, I already was active, not as politically active as I became after, and it was just a natural event. Some of the things that I learned really came from afterwards, when I became very politically active, and in particular with the women's movement. And I thought I would just, for you who are so young, I would just give you an anecdote. This was in the 1970s. I went to the library to get a library card, and the lady types it and she gives it me and says, Mrs. P. Claybrough. I was married, I'm not anymore. P is Peter, for my husband's name, and Claybrough. So I looked at it and I said, because in those days, by the way, you automatically took your husband's name. It's not like that today, thank God. And so I asked the lady, I said, I'm sorry, but this is not me. Okay, you can call me Ms. Michelle Claybrough, if you insist on using that. Do you know that it was like a major event? I had to call the head librarian, I had to go to the major office, and it's just one example of what it did to me. It gave me a voice, and I was a loudmouth to begin with, but it gave me a voice, and it gave me the courage to fight. And in all my career as educator and director of student services, I was the only woman because I moved up, not because I wanted power. I wanted to change the system from inside, which is the most effective way. It's hard, but that's what it did for me, and I took it to the nth degree.
This is an interesting panel for me to be on, given the fact that I'm probably one of the most gender unconscious people that I know. So wherever I am, and I don't always like, oh, it's all men, it's all women. I'll give you an example, not from Concordia or Sir George, but early in my years at the South Shore School Board, I was at a meeting of administrators, and they were all men. There were about 6 or 7 of them, and me. They were all men, white-haired men, which I am now, and they were all white. And I just didn't even realize it until when I was walking down the street after the meeting. I said, oh my God, these are all white men, you're all administrators, and I'm the only woman. So that's an example of my gender unconsciousness. So being involved in the community, as far as the work was concerned, I didn't see myself as different, and I didn't think I was assigned. We sort of decided together who did what. Sometimes you just fell into it. So I didn't see where gender played the role, not in terms of our work.
That's really interesting. I feel like the common denominator is that you already